Oh, it's recording. Okay. Hi, everybody. Um, oh, I'm gonna comment on something that I'm gonna think that you can hear, but you probably can't hear it. So you're like, Jen, why are you bothering to tell us about it? But there's like noise upstairs because the upstairs bathroom is right up above. You know where up is. I don't have to like point with both hands. The bathroom is right up above my office, and my husband's up there taking a shower. He always like. I always make my videos when he's taking a shower because then he won't like come in and be like, "What are you doing? That's stupid. Let's watch Family Guy." Um, okay, we were reading chapter. I just did my nails. I like the color. See the color? But I just did my nails and now I'm like afraid. I'm gonna mess them up. Okay, turn that up too. Hello, now you can see me. Okay. So we're on chapter 5, which was titled Decisions. Chapter 5 of the best vampire book of all time. Blood Size Book One: The Turning by Jennifer Armentrout. My friend Jill, and if you follow her, you should follow her on Twitter. Her Twitter handle is at, the ad is implied. Never mind. I'm like 125. You should follow her on the Twitter, Sonny. No, she's Beatles Jill 79. Beatles as in not like the bug, but Beatles as in like the band. Beatles Jill 79 on Twitter, and follow her. She's like, oh, my fish are having a war. There's all sorts of sounds in my house right now. Okay. Oh, anyway, she told me that one time the book lined up in one of the videos right with my face. There. I'm doing it. Huh. The model has a much smaller nose than I do. Okay. I'm always afraid that I'm going to look up and then you're going to be able to see up my nose and there's going to be a big booger. If that ever happens, I'm sorry. This is my advance booger apology. So, in chapter 5, uh, Carrie's been stabbed by Dahlia in chapter 4, and in chapter 5, she's waking up to the sound of someone humming Pink Floyd's Brain Damage. I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs of all times. That's why I had Nathan have that song. But he's humming that song. It's like one of my all-time favorite songs. I like to put a lot of references in my books to music that I enjoy. So when I say that like he's into all like classic rock and stuff, it's because I'm into classic rock. And then when you know anytime music is mentioned, it's usually something that I like. Um, so she realizes that she is in Nathan's apartment. She remembers being stabbed, and her wounds are all bandaged up, and her face is back to normal. So she's happy about that because the last time she was like one of those man bear pig dragon things, the way my vampires tend to look. Um, so she's not, for some reason I thought she was in his bedroom in this scene, but she's not. She's on his couch. So she gets up and she puts on her sweatshirt again, and she's all like, great, like the day that I got stabbed and I needed help, I had to be wearing my laundry day bra. So he comes in and he's got blood for her that he's all warmed up, like, well, here, you've had a rough day, you've been stabbed, you get some blood to drink. He put marshmallows in it and told her she was the most special one ever. No. That'd be gross, wouldn't it? I don't know. For some reason, every time I would write one of these scenes, I would think about like putting marshmallows in warm blood. And I can't remember if I ever did it in any of these books. So, won't you take the journey with me to find out if I ever have marshmallow blood? Um, so she doesn't want to drink it because she's embarrassed that she's going to look like a man bear pig dragon. She drinks a whole bunch of it. And, then let's see. She kind of has some mental brain thoughts. She does a lot of thinking. Carrie does way more thinking than I do. And then she doesn't know very much about Nathan, so she asks him for some backstory. And he gives her some backstory. And he tells her that he's been a vampire since 1937. And it's really disappointing because she thought that he would be like, oh, I'm from like Roman times. I'm 2,000 years old. I'm like the Black Dagger Brotherhood. And I don't remember if those books were out at the time or whatever, but I know the Dark Hunters were out, and the Dark Hunters were always just like impossibly old, just thousands and thousands of years. And I started thinking when I was reading that series, which I love, by the way, I love that series. But I kept thinking, I'm like, how come none of these guys are like, yeah, well, I've been a vampire since last April, something like that. So 1937. If you can hear whining, that's my dog. Hey, Tucker. You. Hey. He really wants to listen to you chewing your butt on YouTube. You probably can't hear it, but just said my dog is chewing his butt. But he is. He has this thing, and he keeps scratching it, and it won't heal because he keeps picking at it. And I'm so glad you joined me today, and I think you probably are too at this point. So, and he's like, he wasn't an American back then, and she makes him turn away when she's feeding, so he can't see her man bear pig face. And so he looks back, and she's like, "Oh, don't look at my face," because she's embarrassed of it. And he explains that the worse the hunger is, the worse you look when you're eating. And let's see, I mentioned Harryhausen on here because that's kind of the way I imagine the special effects going, like Harryhausen, or maybe like the effects that Stan Winston did for an American Werewolf in London. And I get those movies confused. I'm not a big werewolf fan, but I know that Stan Winston did those effects. So anyway, and then she kind of gets the idea that he doesn't really believe in all that occult stuff. And she tells him she went to the goth club and ran into Dahlia. And he's all like, why didn't you come here? I told you to come here, stupid. You listen to me, because I'm Scottish and sexy, and I'm Gerard Butler before I got bloated, and so how dare you not come here and get blood from me? And she was like, well, you weren't here, and he's like, you should have waited, and she's like, I needed a fix, So, she starts to like zone out and think he's really sexy. And then, do you ever do that? Like when you're around people who are like really good looking? I do that all the time. I mean, I'm married, okay? So it's not like I'm gonna, just kind of like, I don't know, like I think that I need, one, I'm married, and two, I don't think I'm gonna get some hot guy. But when I like, not that my husband isn't hot, boy, I'm just putting my foot in it everywhere tonight. No, rewind. My husband's very hot, but hot guys make me nervous. So I have a really hard time, like, like we're at like those, like RT and stuff like that, where like the guys will come up and they'll be like, "Do you want to dance?" I'm like, "No," because all I'm gonna do is just be sitting here thinking, "God, this guy's so good looking, and what's wrong with him that he's this good looking?" Like, there's no flaw physically, so all the flaws must be mental or emotional. So what is it? And you start to like kind of create backstory, like, well, he's very good looking. He's a very good looking guy. That model over there is a very good looking guy, but I bet he, I bet he was. Every single thing I'm coming to mind right now has some horrible connotation, and I don't want to say it. Like I, like seriously, the first thing that came to my mind to complete that sentence was he was touched by a priest. Like, why would I say? I know I would say that because today was the don't get touched by a priest training thing for the kids at church, which I think they're kind of giving those classes to the wrong people. Uh, but maybe we should give them to the. Why don't we teach the molesters not to molest instead of teach the kids not to get molested? But everything in this is so dark and awful, and I'm gonna post it out of being truthy and open and honest, and that I'm a terrible person. I say this all the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm just an awful person, and people are like, oh no, Jen's so funny, ha ha ha. No, I'm just like everything. Like if you peeled my face off, it would just say evil behind there. So anyway, but I see these good-looking people, and I assume that since there are no physical flaws, they must have just tons of internal flaws, like untreated wounds from childhood, or STDs, or not that that's a big problem, but like for me that would be like you know, like no deal. Like I'm just like, hey baby, let's pop by the store and I'll get, you know, my Valtrex prescription. I might be like, you know, God, I am just really, wow. I'm gonna get angry emails. Bottom line is, I know what Carrie's doing in this scene. She's like kind of zoning out, like, oh, you know, like he's so good looking, but then there's always that but that goes with it. Okay, so she's talking about like how, you know, he's like, you know, she says Dahlia's killed fledglings and the movement should do something about that. And she's like, and Nathan's like, no, because we don't want any more vampires. And she's like, hey, I left my purse behind, so she knows where I live. She's got all my identification. And he's like, the sun will be up soon, so you better stay here. You better stay here in my apartment with me, the hot guy, who has a ton of emotional scars. See, he's really good looking, but he has a ton of emotional scars because he had like this horrible crap happen. I'm right. I'm completely right. The more beautiful a person is on the outside, the more fucked up they have to be on the inside. It's just the law of averages or something. I bet Brad Pitt cries after sex. Oh, Jen, stop! Okay. Okay. I might have to re-record this one. Okay. He's like, oh, and he's like, oh, and Dolly is a witch, by the way. So, like, a witch has your purse and all your information and your credit cards. She could have gotten it by magic. Don't feel too bad, Carrie. So, he's gonna wait up for Ziggy, and he's gonna let Carrie have his bed. So she's gonna go sleep in his bed, and she doesn't feel so great. So he gives her pain meds because she got fucking stabbed. Let's not mince words here. If I cut my finger with a paring knife, it hurts. Let's see. You can tell my medical thing is made up because she just said that she started IVs. I've never seen a doctor start an IV in my entire time that I've ever been in the hospital, which is considerable, that I've worked in the hospital or in a nursing home. In any medical setting, I've never seen a doctor do it. I've seen a doctor be like, start an IV and do blah, 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 and then a nurse does it. So, I don't know why I had her say that. Stupid Jen. I'm going to go write a nasty Amazon review for this book. Nurses don't start IVs. Let me tell a friend of mine from my writing group recently got a review, and the reviewer said it was a really crappy review, and they were insulting. It wasn't like, hey, these are the problems I have with the books. It was like, these are the problems I have with the books and why the author like fucking sucks and blah blah blah. And she said that the author must have been smoking shrooms. Okay, you don't smoke shrooms. You eat shrooms. You just eat them. I don't know if there would be any effect from smoking them, but everybody I know eats them. Not, I mean, like, hypothetically, anyone I know who engages in recreational drug use, which is no one because it's completely hypothetical, but you have to eat them. So if you're going to be snarky and bitchy on a website, you know, you have to, you know, do that. I better see who's on the phone. Oh, but then you'll see that I'm wearing a stripy skirt. Who is it? Oh. That's my mother-in-law. I'll call her back. So yeah, so he gives her medicine and shit like that. And they're talking about how vampires can die. This was my big info dump chapter about like, here, this is how the world works. And let's see. And then he thinks about stuff, she thinks about stuff. She gets up in the next morning and Nathan is passed out in a chair. Ziggy hasn't come in yet. And let's see. Then Ziggy comes back. And Nathan is in like super protective caveman mode and like attacks him. And then let's see. What else happens? Ziggy's gonna give blood. He's gonna donate blood, and we find out that Nathan pays Ziggy for his blood. And in the original draft of this book, Ziggy was older and he wasn't Nathan's son. He was just a blood donor. He was just some random blood donor who was kind of funny. And then as I was rewriting it, I thought to myself that he should be like his son. He should be like his adopted son. So then the window comes open because something flies through it. The window bursts open, and Nathan tackles her because she's gonna tackles Carrie because she's gonna catch on fire because it's daylight outside, and it's Dahlia has thrown a projectile through the window. Then let's see, she's like yelling and shit in through the window, and they realize that what she threw. Oh, and then but Nathan's like just in a towel because apparently I've been watching a lot of Who's the Boss. So Nathan was like just in a towel and oh my god, awkward. Ha ha ha, he's just in a towel and he just saved your life. He's on top of you and I don't know. Like I said, must have been watching a lot of Who's the Boss. And then Ziggy hits his head, so he gets a head wound and takes himself to the hospital. And then what happened? She realizes there's a message wrapped around the projectile that's been thrown in, and it says that her house is on fire, her apartment's on fire. So Nathan takes off because he's gonna go and rescue the Sanguinarius, the book, from her house. And so Ziggy calls and is like, this is what's going on at the hospital. And while she's on the phone with him, she finds the kill order that Nathan got from the voluntary vampire extinction movement. The movement. Dog, did you seriously just try to steal a grilled cheese off the coffee table? Samson, you are a simple dog. Okay, so they had sent this thing to tell Nathan where to find him to kill him, and he went, and so he's gone, and she's like, hey, now I have his address, I have Cyrus's address, he's my sire, I should probably go check out who my sire is, I need to know. And I'm too stupid to live, so I won't do it by waiting for someone. No, I'll just be like, I can do this all by myself. So yeah, she's like, I'm gonna face my fear the way I had the night in the morgue, because that went so well for you, Carrie. You should definitely do that again. So she's gonna go meet her sire, and she will meet her sire, Cyrus, in chapter 6, John Doe. Ooh. And I'm sorry I haven't been getting videos up as often lately as I did last week or the week before last, because I was on a deadline. I was working on a deadline for a book one of my Abigail Barnett books from Resplendence, and it'll be out in January. But I was really over a deadline, and it was really nasty, and I wanted to get it done. Not the book. I mean, nasty. No, the book is like a romance, like a historical romance. But I was just really over my deadline, and I thought I don't want to dink around. I don't like be one of those authors that dicks around on the internet, and their book is like sitting there like not finished. I don't like to do that. So yeah. So that's what I was doing. That was what I was doing last week. So I guess I can, when I can divide my time up a little bit better, I will. But this time was a little bit harder this last week. So, expect more, but like don't have huge expectations, I guess. That looked like I was dunking a basketball. Okay. Yeah. So see you next time for chapter 6, and we'll see Cyrus.